Hello and welcome to another week of Pulp Kitchen.
Welcome to Pulp Kitchen.
How are you doing?
That's my double take thing, where I repeat the...
Yes. You do, you echo, you do the...
Yeah.
Welcome to da-da-da.
It's sort of a bit TV-ish.
It's fine. We
Yeah.
are. Is double take more like this morning?
Yeah.
And what's Pulp Kitchen then?
Yeah,
Yes.
if we were to
It's Pulp Kitchen News Night.
50x the budget of our Patreon show, we'd be like that, the jib camera that swoops down. And welcome to Double Take. Hi, my name's James Brief.
And
This
we
is
do
George
this.
Monday. Speaking of Double Take, guys, we recorded a little Super Bowl special.
We did.
Talked about all of the fun trailers and reacted to them from the night of the Super Bowl fun. Limited to, but not including. No, including but not limited to. I'd say let's include them all.
Jurassic World Rebirth, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning.
No, Final
Lilo,
Reckoning.
Lilo and Stitch.
F1 or F1.
F1, Novocaine, and...
Thunderbolts. Asterisk.
We got it.
We reacted to all of that, gave our takes. So if you want to hear all of our takes on all of the trailers that came out from the Super Bowl and our excitement, anticipation levels for them, go and check out Double Take on our Patreon.
But first, James, Anna and I saw Baby Girl at the weekend, which I will get to.
Nice.
But afterwards, I was saying what we've been saying for a while, which is Harris Dickinson would make a great James Bond.
He would.
And we got talking about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, not only do I think he would make a great James Bond, I think he could be the next James Bond. And James,
Whoa.
I have a new theory
here
about
we go.
why this person is going to be the next James Bond.
Yeah.
So Anna and I got home after seeing Baby Girl, and we just hopped online, looked at the film, went through IMDb.
He's sexy
And
as
Anna he is sexy, James. Well done. Anna made the discovery that I think is key to the Harris Dickinson is the next James Bond debate.
Is it the suit thing?
No, it is that if you go on Harris Dickinson's IMDb, he has no upcoming projects.
That's big. And he's Harris Dickinson.
He's Harris Dickinson.
He's so hot right
He's
now.
one of the hottest actors right now, literally, and in terms of career. If, James, by comparison, you were to go on Josh O'Connor's IMDb, 3
Booked.
projects upcoming.
Yeah.
If you were to go on Aaron Taylor-Johnson's IMDb, 5 projects upcoming. But to not have a single
that's a really
project
good theory.
registered for an actor of Harris Dickinson's caliber and starometer at the moment, I think
Clean slate.
I think that tells me Harris Dickinson is going to be the next James Bond.
If he is the next James Bond, we will have manifested the James Bond. I've not heard anyone else who's been publicly saying Harris Dickinson should be the next James Bond apart from us. We've said it many times now.
We've said it. He is an actor that is not only a good actor, he's an actor at the right point of his
Not
fame.
being too overexposed.
No.
I'd argue Aaron Taylor-Johnson is a great actor who I think would be a brilliant James Bond. I feel like he's just come over that, not for his career, but that sort of sweet spot that they like to bring in the James Bonds into. He's done a few too many things.
But Harris Dickinson has dipped his fingers into nice, interesting projects, but hasn't been overexposed. A bit like how Daniel Craig had done Road to Perdition and Enduring Love and Layer Cake and was ready for Bond. And no upcoming projects tells me it's like clear your schedule because we've got big work to do.
Big Bond moves.
Watch this space.
Oh, I'd love it if it comes true. I do think he'd be great. I think he's unorthodox and it's different. I believe he could do all the things that make what in our mind's eye is a James Bond character, but I think he would just add a different quality to it. And if you're wondering if he's sexy, go watch Baby Girl because he's sexy in it.
And young enough to grow into the role.
Yes.
Daniel Craig was already in his mid to late 30s when he took on
mid to late
Bond.
30s,
So
and he was deep into his 50s when he was
within
finishing.
2 films, he was already like over the hill.
And he was talking about how tired and broken he was by the last few.
But if you think about like Skyfall is sort of 6-7 years into his Bond role, he's already like, the whole point of Skyfall is like, oh, he's older. He's done now.
The problem with Craig is that like his last 3 films were about him being old, which isn't really that fun.
That's it, yeah, exactly.
Your final film should be about being old.
Yes, not all 3
not
films.
last of the 3.
But I think Harris Dickinson not only would make a great Bond, but I think could very much be the next James Bond with that shout.
I'd just be like, it was us. If it happens.
I had to footnote and give Anna the citation there because she was the one that was like, he's got no upcoming projects. And the ding, ding, ding in my brain went, no upcoming projects.
Who was the guy who, there's this clause, apparently this famous clause that you're not allowed to wear a suit.
That
Who was it?
friends of the show, the Townsends. It was Benedict Townsend, who is a huge James Bond fan.
Mega James Bond
who
fan.
spotted that in this new ITV drama that James Norton was in.
That's it.
There was a huge black tie soiree. But for some reason, James Norton's character didn't wear a tuxedo or a dinner suit. And Benedict Townsend made this point that there is a contractual obligation with James Bond that you're not allowed to wear a tuxedo in any other setting.
Brilliant.
Other than James Bond, which is a great bit of information.
It's so
well done,
arrogant,
Benedict.
but also really fun.
And that was a case study and a good observation on that point. But who knows?
should voice note him and figure out if he's a fan of Harris Dickinson as Bond, because I think it'd be good to know his take.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll find it. Hello, Benedict.
Hi, Benedict. How you doing?
You're live on Pulp Kitchen. Please do not swear. I'm voice noting you because James and I are having a James Bond debate, and you are the James Bond expert that we want to talk to you about. Just want to get your thoughts. Do you think Harris Dickinson would make a good James Bond? If you're able to reply within the next
You'll
hour,
be on the show.
next hour to an hour and a half, we will play your voice note out. If not, we will cut this section from the show. But Harris Dickinson, Bond, what are your thoughts?
Hope you're well. Hope you had a nice time skiing.
Oh yeah, hope you're well, by the way, and everything is good. See you
It's your
soon.
birthday. Happy birthday.
Bye.
Lovely friend of the show, Benedict Townsend. You can find his film bites we did with him from, if you scroll back a bit. Great fun.
He's just replied and said, "Don't ever speak to me." Excellent. Okay, but this week's episode, bringing it back down to earth, is episode 167. Last week, we reviewed, James, this is September 5th.
Companion
Presents. We did it. And if you haven't checked out James's discussion of Emilia Perez, that we
catch
put out
up on
as an extra bit
what's
of
going on there.
Yeah, we had a little chat about where we stand with that. But speaking of the Oscar season, that's what this week's episode is going to be about. James and I are going to run through the Best Picture nominees for this year's Oscars and try and rank them in order of preference. You probably kind of know where we stand with some of them, but it'd be interesting just to get a head count of where we are with them.
Who's our winner? Who's our loser? Who's sitting around the middle?
I can tell you this right now. I was just reading the trades earlier.
Yeah.
And current, as of time of recording, current favourite to actually that might pip through and win is Honora. So it's been Emilia Perez versus Brutalist for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
Emilia Perez beset by controversy and issues, but even that aside, Honora picked up Critics Circle, Directors Guild, and Producers Guild awards, and that's usually a 90% chance indicator that picture might go on and win the Best Picture at the Oscars. 90%. Sometimes it doesn't. Like Parasite didn't win those awards, but won Best Picture.
Right.
And there have been occasions where like Brokeback Mountain and La La Land won those awards, didn't win Best Picture.
It stains the parchment of the award.
But as the breeze is blowing, Honora seems to be gathering and gaining momentum, which we'll talk about obviously a bit when we run through it. But that's going to be the run through for this show, isn't it, James?
Fantastic. Can't wait.
And then we'll do some emails, and then we'll end, as ever, with a game.
Before we start though, George, you just said you watched Baby Girl.
Yes.
How did you get on with it?
Not for me.
Not for you?
No.
Interesting. Go on.
Didn't get much out of it at all, to be honest. I think
Fine.
everything you said about it is correct, in that I think it is saying everything that you say it is saying. I think it is having a good dialogue with those things. I also will say, not made for me. Right. Totally accept that. I'm just giving my personal reaction. I don't want to take away what the film is doing for other people.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. When it's talking about desire, female desire, great. Personally,
me as a female,
you as a female, I didn't connect with it at all.
Yeah.
I found the dialogue frustrating and elliptical, and did not connect with me. I found the editing choppy and frustrating, and I think sometimes the film's strength, but also its weakness, was this fact that it didn't ever feel like it was in the real world. It was so tightly focused on its basically 3-4 characters at the heart of it, that I sometimes got lost into sort of the actual ramifications of what was happening. Like it kind of felt like it was its own little bubble.
So to me, it being in it, like feeling it ephemeral, not in a real place. Like, you know, like the abstract corporate shots through the windows, and I was like, we're in sort of someone's cycle of desire. That was more interesting to me than doing a realistic version of that character.
Yeah, I just was quite, and it was from quite early on that I was like, this isn't really clicking with me. I will say, Harris Dickinson is great.
How hot is he?
Future James Bond is great.
Yeah.
I kind of blow hot and cold a little bit on Nicole Kidman. I don't mind her as an actress, and I think she's done some really great work. Her best role for me is actually on TV. You haven't seen Big Little Lies, have you?
But I've heard great things.
Great. That's actually a show, by the way, you could just go and watch as a limited series. They have made a season 2, but you don't need. You could just lift that.
Sorry, that's my George.
That's my George. That's my George. Georgie the dog. But so anyway, not for me. Anna enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
She got more out of it. She found it more sexy and all that stuff. Great. Well, absolutely. However, both of us, both of us, the next day, completely forgotten it.
Oh, interesting.
And I remembered something about it briefly, and I said, like that in Baby Girl. She went, oh, yeah. We watched that last night, didn't we? Yeah. So
see, I've got Harris Dickinson's fingers going into Nicole Kidman's face, burnt into my mind.
Honestly, I did find it quite dull and forgettable.
Oh, fine.
Yeah.
Well, there
So,
you go.
but like I said, I don't want to take away from the fact that it has done stuff for other people. That's great.
Yeah, I liked it. I found it sexy.
Yeah, great.
And interesting.
And I think your review touched on really took apart what the film was doing.
Yeah, you don't see
No.
sexualized female characters in that way that aren't parodied as being nymphomaniacs or cougars.
Yeah,
I
agree.
rate it for that.
Sorry, I'm slightly distracted.
That's all right. Georgie's making her
stroking Georgie the
appearance.
dog here. She's sort of intrusive today. Don't
Yeah,
mind
she's
it.
on a bit of.
She's a bit of
one.
a diva.
Yeah,
She's
she's
doing the Maria Callas impression.
She's post-walk, but she needs to settle.
Anyway, let's get on with the Oscars roundup. So, the Best Picture nominees at this year's Oscars, in no particular order, just to remind us, are as follows. Amelia Perez, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, The Substance, Dune Part 2, Wicked, Anora, The Brutalist. First thing to say is, the film I'm Still Here is not out in the UK yet. It's not out to the end of the month. We haven't seen it, so this won't be a complete list. Also, I haven't had the chance yet to catch up with Nickel Boys.
Yep.
So I've not seen 2 of the 10 films. James has not seen 1 of the 10 films.
Yeah, just
so
I'm Still Here.
So it's a slightly uneven list we're giving you, but nonetheless, we'll try and run through. So of the 8/9 films we have, James, I think you should go first because you have the odd number.
In a very firm last place, as per the bonus that you hopefully have listened to last week, it's Amelia Perez.
Yeah.
Not only do I think it's not the best film of that nominated bunch, I think it's a bad film. I think there are other much better films that came out this year or the last year that would much more comfortably sit in that space. A lot of the categories it's nominated for, if not all of them, I just completely disagree with. So it's really strange. It is eluding a lot of people as to why it seems to be has this huge dissonance between audience appreciation and critic appreciation. I said last week, I wonder if there are 2 versions of this film that were released to some sort of social experiment to see if people would realise that's obviously not true. It didn't work for me. I obviously had people's bad reviews in my mind when I went to go and see it. I think if I wasn't obligated to review it for the show, I wouldn't have finished it, which is really telling. That's where I'm sitting with Amelia Perez, and I assume it's your bottom as well.
It is my bottom one as well, and I will say what I kind of touched on last week, because we got in the bonus, is that I really do feel with Amelia Perez, this is a very cynical thought, but I just feel like time-strapped Oscar voters who don't have time to watch a film, they read the premise and they go, ooh, trans story, Mexican cartel, that sounds interesting, exciting.
Older critics.
I'll align myself with a modern topic, a modern trend. Give that.
Isn't it crazy that that's cycling through our minds? Like I talked about the diversity inclusion factor as maybe that's the thing in my most cynical mind. But isn't it crazy that that's something that's a consideration for us when we're looking at why this is on this list? It's really strange.
I also think what's important is that this is the most, I don't want to say mainstream because it's not a mainstream film, but it is in the sense that it's now become mainstream with the amount of money and marketing that Netflix has put behind it, and because it's now Oscar nominated. It is the most mainstream cinematic trans story that we've had, I think, in recent years. I think it's a real disappointment that the story that it chooses to tell with that topic is really
weird,
kind of grotesque and warped and and it's like there's so many brilliant things you could do with that,
plot threads and scenes that just don't make sense. Yeah, there are so many other interesting stories you could tell, and it's annoying that as a nominee it is sitting on the permanent record as like the first, I don't know what it is, but like could be like the first prominently featured trans character to be nominated and thing. I'm like, this it's not really, I can't speak on it as well as other people can, but I'm like, if you say so, not for me, which is a shame. But it's weird when these dissonances between people happen, like a really stark contrast, like what's the face from last year, Hitman. Remember we got so many emails and people were either loving or hating it. You didn't like it, I really loved it.
Yeah, that was I forgot. Yeah, Hitman.
Which people don't talk about the same way, but that's a film where I was like, the emails we were getting was 50-50.
Still better than Amelia Perez though.
I like that, but it's not even the worst of that bunch. I think it's one of the worst films I saw that year.
Amelia
I think
Perez,
it would have been in my bottom. We do a round of the worst films. I actually would have put it there. That's how low I consider it, unfortunately.
Okay, so Amelia Perez, definitely conclusively happily at the bottom. Moving up, what are you putting next?
So my next film is a film that, although there's bits of it I thought were really brave and I enjoyed, and I'm actually glad to see it in the list, but it's probably quite low down for me, and that's The Substance.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I'm I admire The Substance a lot. I respect it. I'm glad it got the popularity, talking point, and attention that it deserved. Yeah. It has a great performance in Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley as well, and a wonderfully awful Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was originally Ray Liotta. Ray Liotta was actually cast in that role, and then he died, and so they had to recast it as Dennis Quaid. But I would have loved
for that. Ray Liotta's been gone a while now.
So I agree. I think there's a lot of interesting ingredients, and in retrospect, I kind of think, oh yeah, that was fun. But I remember what it was actually like watching it.
It's quite tirelessly doubling down on itself.
Yeah, and it does get a bit tiresome. And I wonder if it is a bit of a one-trick thing after I've seen it once. Will it have the same effect? Because it's such a sparse one. Some of the dialogue is a bit hammy as well.
So there's times when we are editing clips for this show and we're putting up bits of clips from these films. And sometimes when I'm looking at some of the trailer clips from The Substance that I'm involved with, or I'll just see stuff online. Yeah. I look at some of the shots and I'm like, God, this is really visually striking and impactful. And I remember those horrible scenes with Dennis Quaid. It's really invasive in your face and it's shot really distinctly. And I think there's something really brave and bold about it. But yeah, I do remember in the last act, which some people think is the best bit. At that point, I was slightly I get it. You're really doubling down here. But I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, The Substance. Something weird, wacky, and wonderful. I like the way Demi Moore's sort of reality version of her own career in this film crosses over. Yeah. There's something really nice and ironic there. But yeah, it's low down on the list for me. Yeah. And I'd say after these two, my consideration for the rest of the films is much higher. So I'd say there's a big gap after The Substance to my next film.
Oh, really? Yeah, basically, the next two films that I have on my list are on a different branch in terms they're quite safe.
Yeah.
But I'm always thinking about how I felt when I came out of the film as well. So when I came out of The Substance, I felt exhausted. I was like, I'm done with that.
It's traumatizing.
But after The Substance, what have you got?
So after The Substance, and again, I was just going to say, big gap here. I'm going with Nickel Boys.
Oh, yes.
A film I reviewed recently, a smaller film, a film that could so easily have not been on this list. But when I saw it, I was like, that's great. It's a really great film. And it's a story that it really, I said this in my review, it really felt like you were being soaked in someone else's memory and someone else's perspective. And if you don't know, the whole film takes place in a first-person style, very similar to Peep Show, not in tone, but literally in the structure of how it reveals. You have two sides of a conversation. And we do get films about slavery and we get films that take you to a period of time. But this was really inviting you in 2025 to jump into the skin of someone else, quite literally in this sense, and to experience a memory of someone trying to recall a very dark time from their past. And that made it really unique and really personal. I'd say it's a little bit long. There were times I feel like maybe it dragged, but it's gorgeous to look at. Every still felt like a frame. It's shot in a way where you can see these actors are wearing these rigs and mostly unknown actors to me, which I think really added to the effect of feeling like someone else's memory. And I'm glad to see it here, and I think it's a really delicate and really personal piece of work, and it's a very good film.
I can't wait to check it out. Yeah. It's my blind spot of the nominees this year, bizarrely. I think because it just came out it was like the 3rd of January.
Yeah, it was an early frosty one.
Okay, what's your next one as well?
So next up, I've got Wicked. And it's so weird to compare Nickel Boys and Wicked and try and rank them. They're inherently such different films. But Wicked, it sits in the middle of this for me. I'm so glad to see it on there. I think it represents for a lot of casual cinema enjoyers the film of their year. And I think people will think, they will think back on last year and go, oh, Wicked was just incredible. I think it was like Barbie. It brought people to the cinema together and created that joint celebration. My experience seeing it was so amazing for the fact that I was with thousands of fans. I acknowledge it wasn't for me, so it's probably in the middle of my list. I think this is just a brilliant film. In a lot of ways, it's the people's best picture, but it's not quite for me. It's a little bit long. It was never going to be for me, but I really do admire it from afar. Yeah. And I watch everyone surrounding that film and the mania, and I go, I'm so happy that exists, and a great version of this great story is there to last the test of time. And I look it up and I go, thank you. I'll post you on the Hall of Fame for cinema and leave you there. Great.
I have put Wicked higher.
Yeah.
And I think sort of around 4th-ish, I think. And purely because of I everything you said about it, I agree with. And if you heard my bonus a few weeks ago, and I went to see it the first time.
You loved it.
I did love it. I absolutely loved it. And
which was interesting because it was months later after it had come out.
And I think back to it and I get a real warm feeling. And I do understand that, you said that thing about it is kind of a superhero film for those theatre fans, which I agree. But I think it's better than that in the sense that unlike a superhero film, the performances are great. And you really recognise that, and the craft. And I do think it has... I think it's also the surprise factor for me. Even though I knew it was a global phenomenon, I didn't know the stage show. I didn't know what to expect. And I was won over. And there is this sense that it does feel like the people's vote. And I'm like, well, critically, it was pretty well received. Yeah. People loved it. I would be happy if it came to Oscar night and Wicked won. I'd be like, fair enough.
It might be the film of the year.
It might be the film of the year. I had a great time with it.
It's like you have Best Picture as wording, which might mean something else. But if you put the film of the year, it's almost like Wicked leads in, depending on how you brand it.
And I do think there's something to be said for like that kind of big cinema spectacle, full of heart, full of cheer, and I for that reason I've put it higher. In this next batch, so I put it sort of about fourth from the top. But anyway, I'll keep going by your list. And I'll just chip in.
Oh, fine. So then after that, I've got Conclave.
Yeah.
A film. So if we switch, ours is Wicked and Conclave.
We've switched
for us. So Conclave, a film that if you've been listening, we're almost like happy for it, but surprised it's led so much of the coverage of the nominations. A film I think is really well done. It gets all of the important things right. It's got a brilliant cast. Anyone would be envious for that cast. It's the kind of cast you would pay a lot of money to see on stage.
Yes.
And you would be absolutely like you'd be spoiled if you had a film like that. And I think it gets the really important things right. It's really interesting to look at. I think the script is sharp and funny and really engaging. I think other people might have considered this film to be quite stuffy and dry, but it isn't. It's wet, it's juicy, it's gossipy, it's bitchy, it's political. If you love things like House of Cards and Succession and anything that is essentially like, political parties fighting each other, like this is the film for you. I'm almost surprised that it's being considered in such a way, because I don't consider it to be this like arch Oscar contender. No. It's a movie that's inherently quite silly, but it's played very straight, but done really well. So I have no problem with it being there. It's not my pick, and I have so many things about it which I can tell you I think are great. But I'm like, it sits around the middle. It's a good pick.
I totally agree. It's the BAFTAs this Sunday, and there's a lot. The bookies' favourite to win Best Picture is Conclave, which I'm surprised by. Maybe because it's a Ray Fiennes-led project. I don't know. But I agree with you. If you've been following us on Double Take, when we've been talking about the nominations as they come out, we're both surprised that this is being considered as a prestigious awards contender. For me, like you.
Which doesn't take away from how much we enjoyed it.
Like, it is a fun, camp thriller. Based off a novel, it's kind of pulpy, and it is elevated by an exceptional style. It's shot beautifully, directed really well by Edward Berger. Ray Fiennes doing a fantastic commanding presence right in the centre. Great, quite a small, a performance that's carrying a lot on its shoulders. His character does do a lot, and Lithgow, Tucci, all around him, Rossellini, doing great work. And it's funny, you and I came out, we had a little titter about being sequestered for Conclave. We're like, that was a good, solid movie. I call it a solid, fun time. But I agree, it's not about anything deeper. No. It's not about the Roman Catholic Church. It's not really about religion. No. It's not even about leadership.
It's not a religious film. It's not a religious film. It happens around religion, but that's what's so good about it. It would have isolated me more if it was like had anything to say about religion. It's more about like the state of these characters who are religious. Yeah, it's great. Just those shots of like that we mentioned in our review of them discussing stuff in the theatre seats and the way in which the light was vignetted, like spotlit them all, like the eyes of God. Just loads of nice little moments there. And I actually think Ray Fiennes could wrongly be pigeonholed into thinking he's this great villainous actor. He's done Lord Voldemort and Eamon Gurth from is it Eamon Gurth? Horrible guy from Schindler's List. But actually, when you look at some of his really good performances, like his role in Hail Caesar and this role here, there's this other side to Ray Fiennes that I really like, which is his clinical, pernickety, detail-oriented version, which I think is just great. And he really, I always see Ray Fiennes and I go, fantastic, he'll be brilliant.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
But the Voldemort stuff that he's most known for, I find the least interesting of his work.
Okay, what's next for you then, James?
So next for me, and I think, so this is now third and fourth, I can't decide which of these I think is third and fourth, but I'll go and be bold here. Number 4 is Dune Part 2.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm basically switching it between A Complete Unknown and Dune Part 2, and they're really different films. And I would think that might be a recency bias because I saw Complete Unknown very recently. But to this day, having seen Dune Part 2, nearly a year ago now, I remain in awe of Dune Part 2. I think it's such an impressive feat of filmmaking. It's a classic thing. Everyone says it is an art house film disguised as a summer blockbuster. It should buckle under the weight of its staggering cast, and it doesn't. All of those great actors are doing really interesting work. It's just... The Greg Fraser cinematography is the best it's ever. It's cinematography at its very best. If someone was to sit me down, he'd never seen a film before, it was like, what is some really exceptional, modern, sharp cinematography? I'd go, come and sit in this seat here and watch this. This represents the best of modern technology in filmmaking, and it's smart. It is a simple story, but that doesn't make it insignificant.
You think it's simple?
I think, like, if you look at its bare bones,
stripped down
to its bare thing, it's people call it like Space Jesus, or it's like a hero story, and Paul Atreides rises to the occasion. But artistically, how it frames that is so much more interesting. Its subtext and how it seems to represent all of its ideas, I think, are more interesting than the surface. So I remain in awe of it. To me, when I was watching Gladiator 2, my main takeaway was like, you've been totally outdone here by Denis Villeneuve. I saw a much better version of these gladiatorial fights and stakes and drama and intention and conflict that was done so much better in a simpler story. Like Gladiator 2 is a bit more complex. There's a revolution and an underthing, cleanliness and finesse.
So my for Dune Part 2 for me is higher. I mentioned the Pulp Kitchen Awards.
It's your film of the year.
Film of the year. And I'm actually going to put it, for reasons I'll explain, at number 2 for me.
Yeah.
Probably slightly think of recency. It's nearly a year ago now. For me, the reason I hold Dune Part 2 higher is because the more I think about it, I really feel like it walks this line that blends the best of the two wings of filmmaking that we've been used to.
Love it. Wings.
You have the artistic craft and artistry of great filmmaking, but you also have the scale of great big blockbusters. And it's like, when I look at Dune Part 2, I'm like, I forget that sometimes it's a big blockbuster, even though it was like the biggest scale, visually on screen film of last year. It is a huge blockbuster, but the craft with the cinematography, the production design, everything, and just the accuracy of Denis Villeneuve's approach just takes it into a whole new realm. And it's a type of filming that's very hard to do at that scale. And it reminds me of like olden Hollywood, of like big directors doing like painted sets and saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do that.
Arabia,
we're going to do. And I think to do that, to take the story and I think it was awe-inspiring, and everything you said and more. But that's the reason I think it's a success. It's it should be held in the same conversation as a great sequel like Godfather Part 2, because it takes that story, but it's balancing those two wings. The two wings of filmmaking really, really well.
Score as well.
Exactly, like everything.
Totally added
It's this big, like I said, cathedral filmmaking that's like, we're going to tap into the element of filmmaking that's about, and the element of storytelling that's about like building myths.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like on like a primal level, I'm listening to a story in a cave and someone's showing me shadows on the wall. It's like very basic, strong imagery. There's a I'm ranting now, but like there's a video of Denis Villeneuve breaking down a frame where it's a sand dune shot in huge wide, and just the tiny little speck of black is Paul Atreides just sitting in it, and he was like wanted to emphasize this harsh landscape and all this stuff, and all that imagery is very sort of like primal triggered, primal based things about shapes and terrain and environment. Anyway, I love it. I think it's great. Not my number one though for the Oscars, but
it also really felt like it was like they assembled the very best of what they could find of 2024. It was like, who are the best youngest actors right now? Right, let's get all of them. Who is the greatest, most epic cinema score? What's it called? Composer ever lived. Cinema scorer. It's like Hans Zimmer. Great. Who's one of the best cinematographers? Great. And it's like everything worked.
Yes.
And it's like. It's like when Saudi Arabia commissioned something with an infinite budget, and you're like, that can't work. You can't build a city like that. We're going to do it, and that's what Dune is to me. It's not a Saudi-funded film, but I'm just like the mentality of like more extra everything. Would it work? Yes, it does.
Did you see the Saudi Arabian tourism? No, not the line. Forget that.
No.
The Saudi Arabian tourism advert at the end of last year that was deliberately invoking Dune, and it was like, and then like. You'd be forgiven for a few seconds for thinking it was a Dune trailer. Then it was like, visit Saudi.
Did you see the stadiums they want to build for the World Cup?
I don't want to give the Saudi Arabians plans for infrastructure building any more airtime, because I think there are question marks about the
line.
Not just the line. No,
Johnny Harris did a really good video on the line. He went there and he filmed it.
It's just questions about the ethical, environmental capacity of that.
You know they want
beyond
to build
the remit of this show, but I don't want to.
But you know they want to build like a Wembley-sized stadium, 350 feet in the air.
What do you mean in the air?
In the air. So like
suspended by what? On top of a rock?
George, who knows?
Maybe in the air.
Like you get a glass elevator up to it or something. Who knows how you get all those people up? It's crazy.
I'm no engineer, James.
Crazy.
I'm just going to tell you this. I don't think it can happen.
No. Honestly, go and watch Johnny Harris, great YouTuber, did a whole video on Neom as the whole project and the line, and he went out to the line, like updated it, did the whole thing about like spiritual connection with actual society people. Go and check it out. It's really interesting.
Some people don't know what the line is. The line is this attempt to build a city that's
kilometers long.
But
it's the height of the Empire State Building, but hundreds of kilometers long.
But not wide.
No.
Not wide. Less wide than an American boulevard.
Fully 100% sustainable, in inverted commas, glass on each side, and it would be like Did you say
100% sustainable?
Yeah, that's their plan.
That BS.
Yeah.
Huge BS.
And I think the premise is that like a citizen living there would be able to reach all of their needs within like a few minutes of walking in elevators or something.
It's very
crazy.
Dystopian, futuristic. Anyway, moving on. James, what's your next film?
So therefore, as I mentioned before, A Complete Unknown sits at my third choice. James Mangold film, Timothée Chalamet. I was very ready to comment on the fact that I think I was way too overexposed to him. He was the leading man in far too many films of the last 2 years, but he totally shut me up. He's absolutely brilliant in it, and there's so much more to offer people who just aren't fans of Bob Dylan. I'm like a casual Bob Dylan fan. I don't sort of pore over his records, but I had so much to enjoy from that, and I think my main takeaway was that this really works as a film and not just a biopic, is that it's about so much more than just Bob Dylan. It also gets to enjoy telling the story of who Bob Dylan is and his struggles. But this was about America in transition and a moment in time. It's about culture, it's about media, it's about art. And I felt so much more enriched by its other goals than just trying to tell me about who Bob Dylan was, and it worked for all of them. I love the sequence at the end. It was really high stakes at a time when if you didn't understand what was happening then, you wouldn't know why that's high stakes, but that film totally rose to its own crescendo. It's kind of like Whiplash in the final end. Like that should just be a performance that's going a little bit wrong, but if you're armed with all of the knowledge of why that's so significant, it's like, oh my God, this is the biggest deal ever. And that's the same thing I think about A Complete Unknown. It was just very well done. Maybe a little bit dry and maybe a little bit patchy, but I recommend it to everyone. I think it's really good to enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. It might be a little bit baggy in the middle, but it's last year we talked a lot about how music biopics were really dry and was like my least favorite genre.
Yeah,
I'd seen like Back to Black and the Bob Marley documentary, and like not even mentioning the documentaries not documentaries, the biopics that have come and gone as well, like the Whitney Houston one. We've had so many recently. And, it was great to have Better Man last year to come and freshen up. But when I was walking into this, I thought, here's a studio sanctioned big budget about a big figure. Is it going to be another Wikipedia read off like Bohemian Rhapsody? It wasn't, though. It's so much better than that. And I agree. I forget. It sounds really stupid. I forget that it's a biopic.
Yeah.
Because it's a story of a person at a time. And it is, talking about America in transition in a way that The Brutalist is in a different way, but it's like they're both the films about America changing and a fight for what America can be. I agree. I think Timothy really proves it. I was ready to be done with it. I was ready to see an impressionistic take, but Bob Dylan is a real character in this. And when I hear about all the stuff that happened behind the scenes, about the preparation that Timothée Chalamet did, the level of detail and period detail that James Mangold put into it, I go, yeah, that makes sense. That's a good film. It's actually a lot sadder, more conflicted than I think we realize, and it doesn't have a classic trajectory of person gets famous, doesn't like fame, that's in it, but also then struggles with drugs, burns out, comes back. It's different. It's different.
And when the music does play, it's a real pleasure to be in the film's company.
Yes.
I really enjoyed having those characters sing along. And you know what's interesting? It's like, got the biopics like Better Man, which we really enjoyed, but ultimately was just about Robbie Williams. Yeah. Really. I don't think it had much to say about anything else. Yeah. Still brilliant, but you can say the same thing about what we've said about A Complete Unknown to also The Apprentice, which is a Trump biopic in some senses, but that also felt like it was a commentary on America, on greed, on capitalism through the lens of now the President of the United States. And that for me made it really very dark and depressing, but like a wonderful artistic warning. And so therefore I go, I hold it quite high in my consideration, and it had a great performance in it.
So I agree. A good one. So we're now. How many more you got left, James?
So I've got 2 left. My 2 left to comment on are the Brutalist and Honora.
Yeah.
And so you're the same.
Yeah. So basically,
you've got June is high for you.
June is number 2 for me.
Yeah.
Right. Of the top 3, but. I've put the Brutalist at number 3. Belief June. Here's the thing about the Brutalist. If I can start with that.
So that's my number 2.
That's your number 2. The Brutalist is. I've had a lot of time to think about it since, and I've had people. I've talked to some people who have seen it, and it is also one of those films with the way that if someone says to me, "Oh, I saw the Brutalist," I really don't know what they're going to say. And it doesn't matter if they're film people, not film people. I don't know what they're going to say. And my brother and his fiance went to the IMAX to see it this weekend
in 70mm.
I
really want to see it in 70mm.
And they had kind of 2 contrasting experiences and opinions.
Yeah.
Taking aside the fact that it was really busy and all the people are distracting and all the kind of stuff you don't like about going to the cinema on a weekend. They made the point, which I forgot, by the way, which is that obviously a lot of the film is subtitled. Yeah. And what we had with the zone of interest.
Oh, the tennis.
The visual
thing.
tennis.
Yeah.
My brother had some reservations. His fiance was more appreciative of it. But in hearing it, I was like, yeah, I think The Brutalist is a good film. I still don't think, I'm not sure, at least, on first watching, that it's quite the masterpiece it presents itself as.
Sure,
or thinks it is.
Itself as,
I sometimes think it's a little bit self-aggrandizing, and I just don't think it's quite. I even don't think its message and its point is quite as brilliantly nailed as it should be. But I still think it's a really good film, better than a 3.5-hour slog of a film I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting. I think it does have great performances. Guy Pearce, best performance. Adrian Brody has always been top tier, but Guy Pearce's best performance. Great work from Felicity Jones. Immaculately shot. Very different. Very interesting. I totally see if it's not people's cup of tea, but I have it at 3. So my point is, it could have been higher a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
but I think I've just leveled out, and I'm like, I'm happy to say that's a good film. I think I need more time with it to really double down on whether it's a great film of recent years.
I'm ready to rewatch it.
I could go right now. Yeah.
So I'm probably considering it higher than you, or given it physically higher, and it's my number 2. I really remember before we went to go see it, I was very hesitant, and because of everything you said, the way in which it presents itself is like, I am such hot shit. This is going to be so interesting, and it's 3.5 hours long. Interval makes it 4 hours as an experience. But when I got into it, not only was I reassured by how much I was enjoying it and how engaging it was and how beautiful it was to look at, what it does manage to achieve in its runtime and how much it manages to say, though I agree, ambitious, pretentious, probably tries to do a little bit too much. My experience of seeing it was so intellectually enriching. And to this day, I still think about some of the things it had to say and its commentary on where do you even start? Everything that it tries to cover. And I'm looking forward for more people to going to see it outside of just you, to talk about some of the ideas as it settles in as a film that will hopefully, as the dust settles, being a film about all of those things, I look forward to revisiting that conversation. I'm like, that is probably why it's the kind of thing I look for in a film, to be really intellectually scintillated and for it to be gorgeous and for the performances to be good.
True.
It revs up all of my engines. So for me, it's like number 2. It was one of the best films I saw. But I sort of appreciate what you say about, like, is it this? It does do so much.
It's like, because it's such a huge film, I need another run at it to properly confirm and throw my weight behind it to say that it is the things it is.
A friend of mine really wanted to see it. It was like, I want to see it in 70mm. I can't get tickets. It's all booked up. And I was like, I'd like to see it in 70mm. That sounds lovely.
I'm different. I mean, I believe in the IMAX. It would look fantastic.
But I know what you mean by that.
I want to watch it at home. With my own, I've talked about that thing before about the home and away thing. Yeah. I've played it on the film's turf. I've watched it in the cinema, and I've had that experience, which is great. And that's the best way to see it. Now I've seen that. I want to watch it on my turf, which is at home. Yeah. Maybe with one other break in the film if I need to, because I know the film. Yeah. And engaging it in a different way. I know I've said, like, it's a long film with a break and scale. You could use the same things to talk about Dune Part 2, but Dune Part 2 also just like caught me in a more profound way. Yeah. Than Let's the Brutalist did. Hey, it's still my number 3. It's still great. I still rate it very highly.
Great films.
So let's then talk about the film that we think is at the top, which I mentioned at the top, which is Honora, and I mentioned how that's gaining momentum now, and it really could, with the way the wind is blowing, take away Best Picture.
On that awards build-up, I feel like Sean Baker's previous films are really building momentum for him to lead towards. He's had indie cinema cult favorites. Really easy to love films that are smaller and sort of smaller in scope and scale. And I've admit I've not seen all of his previous films, but I now would like to rewatch them. Honor is a film that you could go back and listen to our review. We were so excited to talk about. And it's a film that really sort of grabbed a hold of me and didn't let go. So I've talked about this phenomenon before of when a film ends and you just can't stop thinking about it and it's in my head. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was funny. It's paced in a really interesting way. I can't quite put my finger on what the pacing does that I think keeps the audience engaged, but it's got a mixture of these long scenes, this car crash in slow motion. It's like this got this other factor of a performer and Mikey Madison exploding onto the screen and having a role that is just so electric and enticing. And like now, once you've seen this film, you know who Mikey Madison is. You're never going to forget. And so that factor of the film coming out and being great, her bursting onto the scene, Sean Baker's signature style that he's had in his previous films really shining in this and elevating itself. It's brilliant. It's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's smart. And I hold it above every other film on that list. It's my personal pick for Best Picture.
I think for me as well, the reason it's my favourite, or my personal top pick, is that unlike films like Dune Part 2, where we said you could strip it down and it's bare bones and it's a bit like Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, it's a bit like Star Wars, there's something about Anora that is so unique and different in its execution and everything. It's such a specific beast that I think, you have this pseudo crime adjacent drama that slips into screwball comedy that sort of has overtones of tragedy, moments of pathos, and I'm like, that's a really specific stew, and to pull that off is a real marvel. And so when you come out of Anora, you think, wow, I've been given a real heady mix there that is not like anything I've seen. And I think that's really refreshing. I think to make a film also about sex work in a way that does all those things is not restricted in the type of tone it has to be to talk about sex work is brilliant.
You know what's something, because the sort of Hangover-esque feel about it, it's sort of Hangover, Sex Drive, American Pie, Superbad side to it.
There is
whilst also being
the Uncut Gems side of it.
Like an Uncut Gems. And it marries these two, like the stoner college, America got to get them to the place comedy. There's something in there about that. And then there's this really like dark commentary on wealth and greed and
sneaks up on
sex work, which sneaks up on you. And its long run time kind of leaves you with ideas towards its finale.
Great finale as well. I still stand by that as one of the best endings to a film that just gets...
And like a personal highlight for us recently was speaking to Sean Baker and Mikey Madison in a conversation which we just really enjoyed, and they were great. Sean Baker's a huge film fan, and we both left that conversation being like, that was so cool. We got to speak to those two people who were in that film that we really liked.
It is also
a good chat with them. Go and check out that conversation.
And like you just saying it now, it's like we thought the film would do well at the time. This is now nearly 6 months ago, but now it's like prime Oscar contender.
Yeah.
And we got to speak to the director at the start. Like, that's amazing.
It's really cool.
Check out our review and our previous comments about Anora. But I think that's I would be, if it came to awards night and Anora won, I'd be like, a really interesting thing that's about things. Yeah. It's about things that has lots of ingredients. I love it. So basically, we're mostly aligned in our agreement.
Yeah, just flipping around some wicked, some complete unknown Dune stuff, but like our top is agreed, our bottom is fairly agreed. There are so many films that you could switch Emilia Perez out for. That
was basically looking at that list. Apart from Emilia Perez and the two films I haven't seen,
yeah,
I wouldn't change the nominee. Like I wouldn't necessarily.
No.
I'm happy to have them. Emilia Perez is the only one that I go, what are you doing here? Yeah. Even like Conclave, I'm like, you can be there.
It's a good film.
Happy for you, and the same with Substance. But like, where's The Apprentice? Where's Sing Sing? Yeah. Where's Challengers?
Yeah, Challengers. You and I keep turning to each other and be like, how is Challengers not nominated
for anything? Not best score, not best script. That's really, I really am just so disappointed.
It's better in all the categories that Emilia Perez is nominated for.
Absolutely.
So weird.
Anyway, do you agree with our roundup?
And it was in my top 2 or 3 films at the end of the year at the Pulp Kitchen Awards.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And I could also, again, I've seen Challengers twice. I could happily watch it again. Yeah. There's something so rewatchable about it because of the whole multi-perspective element to it and the multiple time narratives.
Go watch Challengers again.
Do you guys agree with our roundup of the Oscars this year? Do you think that's fair? Do you think other films should deserve to win Best Picture? And what do you think is going to actually pick up the award on the night? Let us know to hello, Pulp Kitchen Podcast gmail.com.
If you leave a pause, I'll go send him.
Yeah. Should we have some emails?
Let's do it. So, friend of the show and James Bond superfan Benedict Townsend has responded with a voice note.
James, it's 3 minutes long.
Oh, this is fantastic. Okay, let's play it.
Let's play it. Let's hope this works. This is from Benedict.
Hello, lads. How are you doing? Lovely to hear your fine voices. I had a wonderful time skiing. Thank you very much. I knew within 1 millisecond of starting that voice note that you're going to be asking me about James Bond, and I was delighted when you did. Okay, so let's talk Harris Dickinson. Well, in my James Bond obsessive opinion, I would say that Harris Dickinson, he's a good candidate. He's British, obviously. They primarily want British candidates. You can be from within the Isles. You can even be from the Commonwealth in the case of George Lazenby, but they basically want a Brit. They're not going to cast an American. Harris Dickinson, also a good actor and a well-known actor, but not too well-known, which also works in his favour because they don't want someone too famous. People always talk about Henry Cavill.
It's like he's doing the weather.
And if you see here down over the northeast, you're...
Aside from being probably too old now, Henry Cavill is too famous. They're not going to cast Superman as James Bond. It's not going to happen. Harris Dickinson is a nice level of he's made a name for himself. People might recognise him, but he's not too famous. Kind of the place that Daniel Craig was in when he got cast. So that works for him. But the thing working sort of against him is that he's 28, I believe, which is just too young. You have to be at least 30. They tend to cast Bond actors in their late 30s, if not early 40s. There was a lot of talk in the press in the last year or two about them wanting to cast a bit younger, early 30s, basically because it takes them so long to make these films these days. You think Daniel Craig, he was James Bond from, in the end, 2006 to 2021, and he made, 5 films? You think how many Marvel movies came out in that same time. So Amazon, which I believe owns most of, if not all of the rights to Bond now, or works with Eon to make Bond, they're going to want a lot more movies. So the idea was, let's cast a nice young Bond, get lots of movies out of them. But the twist is, I believe one of the people who does casting for the James Bond production company came out and said that they looked at lots and lots of young Bond actors and basically decided that someone in their early 30s can't really hack it as James Bond. Like, it's a character that's inherently a bit more, wise, middle-aged. He's a guy in his 40s. That's James Bond's vibe. And apparently, according to this one person, they looked at all these actors who were like 30, 31, 32, and none of them quite had the gravitas. I mean, obviously, this might be why you're talking about it. We saw the Henry Cavill Bond audition leak this past week or two, back from when he was like 24 in that, which is way too young. But, you have to be a little bit older to have the gravitas to be Bond. So my long-winded answer is, I think Harris Dickinson would be a great James Bond, but I think he'd be a great James Bond in about 10 years. And I think at his current age, it's unlikely he will be cast. Who will be cast? I genuinely have no idea. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, probably, if you're going to be making a bet, is probably the most likely candidate. For a long time, I thought it was James Norton, but now I think that ship has maybe sailed. Anyway, that's my million-hour-long answer. Love the podcast. And all you listeners out there, make sure you're subscribed to the Pod Kitchen. That is my favourite podcast to listen to every episode. Can't get enough of Pod Kitchen with Jim and Steve. Thanks, guys.
First of all, that was such a comprehensive, detailed answer. I thought he would come with something good, but he covered so many bases there.
Benedict, thank you very much.
Go and check out Benedict's stuff. Scroll D, great TikTok show, and just all of his antics.
Excellent.
On
So
social
there
media.
you have it. I think I agree with every point he said.
I totally get it. I think the big question mark remains with the age. It's like, are they willing to? Because I think what he said about Bond being in his 40s, he's too young. But because they did Daniel Craig at that age point, and I don't see them making these films any faster unless they sort of figure out a way to do it. I wonder if they want to mitigate that factor and go for someone young. And take the risk.
I do agree that Bond as a character is not someone who is learning. He's someone who knows what he knows, and the drama is in him disagreeing with the conventions of the time and the conventions of his peers and his superiors.
And with youth, that factor is
it's
different.
not there. I don't want to see a young James Bond learning. You have James Bond knows his stuff. It's about whether he gets it right or wrong and how much he conflicts with other people. Interesting stuff to talk about.
I still think the thing I said before about waiting for the delayed Craven the Hunter film to come out has delayed the potential announcement. In the world where he's Bond, that's delayed his announcement. That needed to come out. People need to forget about it. There needs to be space, and then he gets announced.
The Aaron Taylor-Johnson leak about him being the potential candidate, I thought was really interesting because with all leaks, my old PR cynical hat comes on and I go, there's no such thing as a leak, really. It's all manufactured. Yeah. However, I'm starting to think that, like, even though it's done Aaron Taylor-Johnson a great deal of work, it's risen his profile. Yeah. We're all talking about his name a lot more now. I feel like the surprise factor now, if they actually came out tomorrow and said Aaron Taylor-Johnson is Bond, everyone would go, oh, okay. So it was like...
It's been pre-announced,
Been pre-announced. So it's kind of taking the wind out of its sails.
Probably. I mean, he's definitely screen tested and he's definitely worn the suit and he's done a thing. It was amazing seeing these. Cavill was close to so many big roles, like Superman until he got it. Yeah. James Bond.
Yeah.
What else
It was between him and Craig for James Bond.
Yeah. God, it's all worked out for him fine. But for a long time, he didn't get Superman until he was... I don't know how it was.
Well, if he was
2013, Man of Steel came
out. So early 30s. I think he was 32, maybe.
No, it's all right. I'm
30.
Yeah,
you can handle it, Henry.
You can handle it. It's important to ground him with failure in his 20s, I think.
It makes a better actor.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get on with some emails from our listeners as ever. You can write into the show at hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com about any recent films you've seen. Just like...
trying to find the folder.
Adam did. Friend of the show, Adam writes in about September 5/5, which we reviewed last week. Adam says, hi, James and George. Hope you're both keeping well. It was awesome to see the content from Sundance Film Fest, and I hope you two legends get more similar opportunities in the near future.
Thank you, journalist Adam Barlow.
In my quest to watch as many BAFTA/Oscar nominees as possible, in the last week I caught The Substance, Hard Truths, Sonic 3, and September 5th.
Nice.
Sonic 3 is not a nominee, but a bloody great time at the cinema. Such a crowd pleaser with Jim Carrey in top 4. I have heard this.
I think there's a world in this year. Maybe I'm sick. I whack on Sonic 1.
I wonder if I skip to Sonic 3 because that's the thing.
Is it meant to be much better than Sonic 1 and 2?
You know what? I'm with you. I agree. Sonic 1. Just whack it on. But I've heard great things about all of them, really.
Jim Carrey. I'm starved of Jim Carrey now. Apparently,
James Marsden.
Great. Love James Marsden. He's a sweetheart. Have you seen the Hairspray film?
Hairspray?
Yeah. Hairspray.
Yeah. Well, when you say the Hairspray film, like it's known by a different name. Yeah, the Hairspray.
If I said, have you seen Hairspray? You might go, yeah, the musical. I just want to check. You've seen the Hairspray film?
Yeah.
Anyway, he's great in it. He's Corny Collins and he's really good.
He's really good. Good cast.
It wouldn't have him because he's an American, but it would make a great James Bond a while ago.
15 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
As the resident multimedia journalist graduate, I thought I'd weigh in with my thoughts on September 5th. I thought it was very strong indeed.
Go check out a review from last week.
Gripping, tense lock-in with excellent editing and charismatic performances from the whole cast. Yeah. I didn't know the outcome of what happened, so each decision and reveal felt hugely compelling. It also allowed me to geek out over the 1970s tech. I'm no expert, but I'd love to step into a galley like that. No, it's a gallery. Thank you, sorry. And try to understand just how complicated it would have been to create a news bulletin. There's something so special about physical media, and similar to what Brady Corbett said when discussing the choice of VistaVision on the Brutalist, I appreciate the convenient workflows that digital tech has granted us, but you hit the nail on the head when you spoke to the September 5 cast. There is something inherently more care and time put into news production. It really inspired me. Which other journalism films should I check out? Off the top of my head, I've seen Nightcrawler, The French Dispatch, Anchorman, and Bridget Jones.
Nice. Different. Spotlight's really good.
I had a quick chat about September 5th with a friend of the show, Fred Asquith, right?
Yes.
And we talked about Spielberg because he talks about Munich, which obviously this film shares a topic with. And then we got talking about some of Spielberg's recent great work that we feel like Spielberg makes great films, but because it's Spielberg, everyone goes, yeah, it's okay. But it's like, if anyone else made that, it'd be great. And an underrated recent Spielberg film is The Post.
Seen it.
Post is a really... Watch that instead of Sonic 1, James. Okay? No, but like the Post...
Oh, shit. They weren't competing in the same space. But yeah. No, I agree.
I think I watched The Post when I was sick. I got into bed and The Post is a really solid, gripping thriller. You've also got a great supporting cast like Bob Odenkirk's in it and some other... Bruce Greenwood. Really great one. So Adam, straight away, take... The Post as the answer. Also, Spotlight. Surely that one best picture Spotlight, you would take as well.
This next one is from Lara. Lara writes into hello@popkitchenpodcast.com just like you can. She says, hello, gentlemen who I shall not name in order.
He who shall not be named.
Yeah. I finally got around to seeing Conclave at my local cinema this weekend and listened to your review episode shortly thereafter. I thoroughly enjoyed the film. The tension, the acting, the colour, the quiet conversations, the raised voices. It satisfied the eyes and ears. I like the way you write that. I wanted to point out a few key things I noticed that really added to the overall tension and feel. As noted by James, it feels as if we, the audience, are sequestered with the characters and got locked into the small confines of the film. Yeah, the decision to not take the camera out of the place where they were.
Vatican?
Yeah, that was like if they were cutting outside and trying to wouldn't work. Yeah. What Vatican place where they were. What I thought was really cleverly done was the subtle pull back into the real world. This was displayed through things like sirens, crowds cheering, and rioting. The coffee pod machine used by Cardinal Tremblay in his accommodation. The generic Advil in the Pope's desk.
Yeah.
The photocopier machine error. The fluorescent orange straps on the gurney used to wheel the Pope out.
Yes.
A cardinal scrolling on his phone outside before a conclave commenced.
Yes.
I found myself getting so into the little world the film shows that those elements really made me go, hang on a minute, there's still a whole other world going on. Overall, a really solid film that is tense and exciting without being overwhelmingly stressful. Looking forward to another great year of film and listening to the two of you discuss all things cinema. Thank you to all your wonderful work. Big love from Australia. Lara, thank you so much. And yeah, I like what you said. Overall, a really solid film that is tense and exciting without being overwhelmingly stressful. It's not a stressful watch.
No, it's not a stressful watch.
It's intense.
And James,
it's interesting.
Who's this? Cool. But also, Cardinal Lawrence, I have to say one other thing. You know, his age, he just keeps on going, great, that's great.
One thing I forgot to mention to you before.
He does a Columbo. He keeps doing Columbo on Cardinal Lawrence. Just one more thing, Your Grace. This next email is from Lawrence, who writes in saying, Western recommendations for the missus. Hi, George. Hi, James and George, and George and James and George, of course, and James. Lawrence here from Bristol.
I'm so confused. Who do you like more?
My girlfriend got me into the podcast, and I've thoroughly enjoyed hearing you guys grow and develop. To Lawrence's girlfriend, thank you for getting Lawrence into it. Spread the word. Spread the good word of the Church of Pulp Kitchen. My girlfriend is well into cowboys. She has decided to watch a Western movie every week this year, and so far we have watched True Grit, the Coen Brothers one, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and Blazing Saddles. We've got a lot more on our list. No Country for Old Men, Tombstone, Bone Tomahawk, Oklahoma, and many others akin to those films. I was wondering whether you had any recommendations for Westerns that are a little less known, hidden gems, something left of field, or something in another language. Is Mad Max a Western? The scope is so broad.
Oh, I like putting that as a Western. I think that's quite a fun way to look at it.
Many thanks in advance and looking forward to following what you do in the future. Lawrence from Bristol. I love that it's quite a niche thing now to be into Westerns.
Yeah.
Like, they're not a popular genre anymore.
It's not an active category, really. It's almost like, a Western.
Yeah.
When they come and go, you know?
I respect that. Okay,
so I don't know if you've seen Django, but that's like a Tarantino Western. I think
absolutely
it counts. If you want to indulge in
you
that.
could do The Hateful Eight as well. I'm less a fan of it, but The Hateful Eight
Hateful
counts.
Eight. It's still fun to watch that.
Sure.
Do you count films like...
Sorry, they're doing one a week.
Yeah,
they've got
you'll
ages.
have to get through them. Do you count The Revenant?
You can.
That's a thing.
You could do, because it's about westward expansion in the United States, isn't it? To get Mark Corrigan. James has these moments where he laughs because I turn into Mark Corrigan from Peep Show.
He really does.
But historical references.
We are doing that because somewhat similar to Mark and Jeremy. Like, I'm a little bit more Jeremy and you're a little bit more Mark.
No, Jeremy. I would say you need to watch Unforgiven, which is the Clint Eastwood Western movie with Gene Hackman and Morgan Freeman. And what Unforgiven did in 1992, that was a film that was talking about like the legacy of violence and characters that are getting older and dealing with their past and thinking maybe all this violence that I've done is actually having a toll on me and I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. And that, I think, was a character trope, more an anti-hero trope that we're really familiar with now.
Yeah.
But for 1992 and 93 was really like quite fresh and a good take. Also, it was Clint Eastwood returning to the Western genre after having done other films that you can put on your list, such as the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Yeah. High Plains Drifter is really good. There's a shot of High Plains Drifter of him walking into town with all the residents of the town looking at him through the, slats in the window, which is referenced in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, cool.
There's also a great Spencer Tracy movie called Bad Day at Black Rock, which is about a father going to... he's a one-armed He's a one-armed man who goes to this backwater town to find out what happened to his son who was killed. But it's really, really interesting. There's a film called Slow West with
Fassbender
one, Ben Mendelsohn, and Cody Smith McPhee.
Ben Mendelsohn in his peak,
sort of gruff and grumbling role. Is set in Wyoming but shot in New Zealand. Doubles very nicely. Works very well. That's quite good.
You know what was rubbish or not that good or boring? Power of the Dog. Remember that film?
Yeah, I didn't.
Nobody talks about it.
Well, yeah, it's just one of those recent
dry
things.
It's a dry film.
Any other Western or Western adjacent movie? The Coen Brothers one. I thought it was okay. There was one line in that movie that we used to quote at school for like months afterwards, which is "You're not the beef." It's just a random. Anyway,
funny voice.
I'm pretty sure the thing is like neo-West. Like I think in a way, Kill Bill's a bit like a Western.
Oh,
Driven by Revenge.
I see what you could like skin it as a Western.
You could also. I've not seen Shane, which is like an iconic Western movie, but Drive is a lot like Shane.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
You have this kind of like it's an anonymous hero, like trying to do good.
Coming through, yeah. I mean, there you could start doing loads of
I like the ones you've said that like Bone Tomahawk is really strange and weird. No Country for Old Men, like that is a Western. Yeah. There Will Be Blood. I think that's a stretch to call it a Western. No one gets their revolver out and goes, yeah!
The thing is like the expansion of capitalism and oil and like outlaws and religion, the input of religion is really big.
What about Killers of the Flower Moon?
Yeah.
I count that. Would you?
Just something, I don't know what the factor is. Like, is it because we're not riding horses and saying yeehaw and pulling down the saloon door?
Yeah.
Is that what? I'm trying to think what is my baseline.
It's got violence against indigenous cultures.
It's literally about the invasion of America.
There's like that's like a subsection, like
that's
Western.
Such a good film.
It's not a Western; it's a Western drama.
I also feel like Killers of the Flower Moon might be considered in a similar way to The Brutalist in some senses.
Same runtime.
So the runtime is there, but it's technically brilliant with great performances, shot beautifully, about a lot of things I don't think resonates with everyone. I think it's hard. You know, I loved it.
I loved it too. I need to watch that again.
Same.
Killers.
Yeah.
I want to sit down and hunker in and be like, let's do this. Because I watched that at 8:00 in the morning at the London Film Festival. And I want to really soak that in because I do think that's a really fantastic
film. I might have
film.
to treat that the same way I did when I watched The Irishman for the first time, which was on a really long flight. Because I've already seen it in cinema. I might queue it up on my iPad and headphones. And just because I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Just me in that film.
Yeah.
It's great. I never need to see The Irishman again though. I thought it was impressive.
I don't need to revisit it because the CG, the whole the whole de-aging.
I'm
really
glad I've seen it. I was entertained. I enjoyed myself. But I'm like, great.
But Killers, I think, is like, that could be going Scorsese's. On Killers, we've seen the trailers recently for Alto Nights and Zero Day, which is De Niro's latest work. De Niro doing his sort of phoning it in
It's
stuff.
like an AI generated generic
Robert De Niro film.
Robert De Niro Scorsese film.
But
it's not.
It reminded me that I think not only is De Niro fantastic in Killers, I think it might be his best performance.
He's really
one of his best in Killers.
Yeah, it's a big conversation, but I know what you mean.
He's just dialing it in on a different level. Sorry, we're moving on, but thank you for that email.
Next up, from best friend of the show, Emily Cox writes in and says, "Hi both. I was wondering what you do when you just want to switch off and not overanalyze content for podcasts. You know, when you want to consume something but engage zero brain power. Not sure if you're Gossip Girl kind of people. I just binged Amandaland, so funny on BBC, which scratched that itch for me, but it was way too short. I don't think I can do my 10th rewatch of Friends just yet. Congrats on thriving and all the work you did at Sundance. It looked like all the talent really vibed with you. Screw J-Lo. Thanks, Em." Yeah,
if you listen.
J-Lo.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't bad. Yeah, that's it.
Great question. So first of all, I've enjoyed Gossip Girl. I'm more of an OC guy. Watched the OC, and I enjoyed One Tree Hill. But like the actual answer for what I do to switch off, I mean, there's a number of things.
I think this is what TV in general is now what I'm using as non-show content. Even though I talked about Paradise last week, which just like it was like an additional benefit. Yeah. But I'm taking the pressure off myself, and whatever I watch on TV, whether it's Severance or Paradise or Friends for the 10th time, it's just
if you have a take,
if I have a take, I'll bring it in, but I'm not putting on my Pulp Kitchen helmet.
Yeah. Tally's also Gilmore Girls. She likes Buffy.
Yeah, you mentioned about the Buffy thing.
Yeah, it really surprises you. She was
I don't know anyone our age who's into Buffy.
I was editing last week's double take, we were talking about Buffy coming back. She was like, "What? Buffy's coming back?" And I was like, "Yeah, have you not heard?" She was Googling it, and it was a whole thing.
Wow.
But yeah, so what I really enjoy, which you were talking about earlier today, is for a really long time, me and Talia for a long time rewatched the entirety of Peep Show through all the way. And that was a really enjoyable, like, you know, just finished dinner, don't want to watch anything too long, nice short episodes. And it was guaranteed laughs every episode. And even though I'd seen all of them and Talia had seen most of them, I was just howling with laughter every day.
Yeah.
And it's such an easy show to watch. It's aged really well. It's quintessentially British.
Similarly, well, not similarly, different type of show, but Anna and I, for the past 6 months, whenever we can, have been rewatching Scrubs. Now, Scrubs was a show which was on a lot when we were teenagers, and like we'd like be on like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, just whack whatever. And I checked in and out. I saw bits here and there.
How does it age?
Well, here's the thing, quite well so far. Season 1 is like has season 1 vibes where it's not quite finding itself and that stuff. Still funny.
I remember that when I watched it through.
Yeah, and it's also season 1 is like 2001. It's dated. It feels it's lower budget. It's kind of
different time.
It's just different time. But we just finished season 2, and you know what? Some of it is really funny. What I find interesting is that when I was at school and I'd watch it, I used to find Zach Braff and John C. McGinley. I used to find JD and Dr. Cox the funniest.
Yeah.
Now when I'm older, Bob Kelso is the funniest character in that show. He is so good and so deadpan. His performance. I also don't think I gave enough credit to Sarah Chalk, who plays Elliot.
Right.
When I was younger, again, I thought Elliot was just like this kind of ditzy character. I know a couple of people at school were like, "Oh, she's so annoying." Sarah Chalk is so funny.
Yeah.
Is so good in this show, and like so natural. Comic timing is great. At the moment, I'm at that point of Scrubs where it keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
It's really funny. We're really enjoying it. And that's a nice... It's far enough away that we don't remember exactly what happened, but it's familiar enough to be comforting. And that's what takes
I remember watching... So I'd seen like bits of Scrubs. And then do you remember on Sky you could series record stuff?
Yeah.
So when it was being rerun... I remember I once pressed series record on the pilot.
Oh, wow.
And that then meant that like in my Skybox was just like, because I let it go, it was just like all of Scrubs. And so I remember I ended up watching like 3 or 4 seasons like through, and I was really enjoying it, but I never continued beyond that. So I've seen a handful of episodes beyond that, but I have like seen all through and like enjoyed it. I never was like, Scrubs is my thing, I'm a Scrubs guy, but this was a long time ago now. But it's quite a good candidate for the casual switch off rewatch.
Really, and also we've like been rewatching it, and then we won't watch it for like 3-4 weeks, but then we'll come back to it. Easy to slip back into. Yeah. Season 1, it's finding its feet a little bit, but you know what's fun is like the other day, Ryan Reynolds was in an episode as a minor character.
Yeah,
he's like one of their college buddies.
Original Deadpool and what X-Men.
Yeah, like just like way back in like I think it's even before Van Wilder. Like it's just like early Ryan Reynolds. So
great answer there.
This last email is from Finn, who writes in and says, "My last words to the Brutalist." I don't know why that. What are the final words? It's like, hey, I've said what I've said. My final words.
Sadly, no longer with us.
Finn says, "Dear James and George and James, since everybody talks about the Brutalist, bold, italicized, and most of the people I heard do love it, I really want to share my thoughts. Good things first. It's beautiful in every way. The editing was great, and the intermission needs to stay."
Yes.
Now the negative. For me, the whole movie felt like a man who likes to hear himself talk. Sure. I'm sure we've all met someone like that.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't enjoy a sophisticated film. In this one, it just felt really heavy-handed and try-hard. The movie itself somehow glorified Laszlo's egotistic work ethic, and he was treated as some kind of genius in a way that I thought apologized for his shitty behavior. As a whole, I found it had nothing new to say about art. Since I do art myself, I hate to call myself an artist, but maybe I have a special connection to the topic, and that's why it felt flat. I don't know. I couldn't find a positive ending to this email, so here's a really fun and super random movie recommendation that has nothing to do with The Brutalist. The Devil's Advocate. Not sure if you've seen it, but it has Al Pacino dancing and lip-syncing to Sinatra in a great trashy movie. Check it out if you have more time. Just before we get to The Brutalist, yes, quite a few people have recommended The Devil's Advocate.
Yeah.
That's Keanu Reeves, Al Pacino, in a thing that I think was not received well at the time. It's become a bit of a cult favourite now.
Yes.
Check it out.
It's when you call someone an artist, or you call yourself an artist, that only really applies when you like paint or draw. It's if you're a musician, you say you're a musician or I make music, you go, I'm an artist, but we consider that someone who makes art. Yeah. So if someone said to me, what do you do? And they said, I'm an artist, I would picture them over a canvas.
But is that wrong though? Is that incorrect?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying. I'm not sure how we fix it.
I would say if you're a filmmaker, you're an artist. If you're a musician, you're an artist.
But it would be incorrect for Denis Villeneuve to say I'm an artist. No, why don't you just say you're a filmmaker?
I don't think it'd be incorrect, but I think it's actually we as a culture quite wrongly go, all right, Oh, could you just have an artist do it? No, you're a filmmaker.
Because then when you say I'm going to buy some art, you don't think I'm going to buy some Blu-ray. No. You think I'm going to buy some painting.
That's because of the... Now I'm Jez and you're Mark. Mark, that's just because the consumer capitalist world we live in that has separated these things into an industrial process. You can commodify art in one way, commodify film into another.
Everything art, Jeremy. There are words for reasons. There are categorizations. Mark, there are definitions.
Art for you. Art here, art there.
So we just throw out all of the rules?
Yeah, man. Just throw it all out.
That's insane, Jeremy.
I'll tell you what I did, Jez. Threw it out years ago.
Yeah.
I play art myself. I'm a musician. Okay, Hans, get out of the thing.
Love it.
Did I tell you I watched Wedding Crashers over the weekend as well?
You didn't say that.
I had a night to myself.
The first time.
Basically the first. I think I'd watched it when I was 12 or 13. So for all intents
and
and purposes.
People would have,
And you know what? Better than I remembered.
Yeah.
Still like, hey, Ma, the meatloaf! I'd forgotten how good the chemistry is between Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson.
One of the best on-screen comedy.
Because Vince Vaughn is doing that fast-talking thing where I'm saying, well, we're going to go, we're going to go.
Talk fast, you talk
But
fast.
like the lines of dialogue he's actually saying, some of them are really witty. Some of them are really funny. And
I don't know why they're a weird pair.
We gotta go.
Because Owen Wilson is sort of laid back. And he's like, no, let's do it. It'll be great. Whereas Vince Vaughn is like, hey, you fucking leave me to dry out there. Fucking Judas.
He's 6'5". He's huge. Just like, I got no bodily fluids left in me. We gotta go.
Impresses me as a comedic presence because he talks so fast and he does what he does at 100 miles an hour. I'm like, I don't know how you keep up with him.
Yeah.
Whereas Owen Wilson's like, he's the guy.
Bouncing out. I'll be there. Really.
Bradley Cooper, pre-hangover Bradley Cooper in there. And a menacing Bradley Cooper.
And Rachel McAdams, hot off Mean Girls and The Notebook.
Would have done, yeah. Isla Fisher as well.
Isla Fisher. Also, Senator John McCain. Pre-2008 presidential campaign.
My favourite line is, when they're at their big estate and they're all playing American football and Christopher Walken points to his son. It's like, come on, why don't you come and play football? And he's kneeling over a canvas and just goes, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I always found that so funny. And it's a wonderful like one line, one frame, perfect articulation of who that character is.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
But it was more delightful than I thought.
You make me want to shout.
Yeah, good montage. Chris
Great
Walken.
montage.
Anyway, those conclude the emails for this week. As I said before, as we always say every week, you can send in your email to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com.
And if you want to have priority access to have your email read out on the show, you can support us at the VIP tier on Patreon, like many of you do. So go and check that out for that and Double Take and more and ad-free listening to the show.
James, should we conclude this episode?
Let's do it.
With a game.
Let's
conclude it with a game.
George, as always, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
I have written a game for you today, George. It is a twist on a family favourite. Well, like the Pulp Kitchen family.
I like that as well.
My family.
Kids, gather round. Major favourite.
We love film opposites.
Yes, we do.
They're silly. They're fun. But what about TV ones?
Oh, goodness. Here we go.
I've gone round to all of the great TV shows. And
You've gone round, knocked on their door and said, do you mind if I tell you it's an opposite?
The Wire. And I've written gone to the thesaurus off my shelf, and I've chosen an antonym for every single, or most of the words. Some of them make perfect sense. Other of them only make sense if you're playing this game. You can play along at home. Let's see how many George can get quick fire. George, are you ready?
No.
You have to guess the TV show from its opposite title. 3, 2, 1. Choir of Sisters.
Something of brothers. Choir of sisters would be like orchestra of brothers. Band of brothers.
The first of them.
The Last of Us.
Yes. Mending Good.
Breaking Bad.
Found.
Lost.
Work of Chairs.
Chairs. Tables. Chairs. Table.
I'm a king. I sit on a
throne. Game of Thrones.
Yes. Purple is the old white.
Orange is the new black.
Yes. West Centerers.
West Centers. East Enders.
Yes. The black orchid.
The white orchid. Rose. White dandelion. A plant.
Just to put out a new
Lotus.
series. Yes. Sane Women.
Mad Men.
The Swimming Alive.
The Walking Dead.
Fast Ponies.
Slow Horses.
The Wizarder.
The Witcher.
Bottom Girl.
Top Boy.
Truth Angel.
Truth Angel. Demon.
If We Do What and Dare.
Daredevil.
Yes. Straighten Your Apathy.
Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Saving Steve. And that wraps
dear.
the opposites of the TV game. I will appreciate that purple is the old white and orange is the new black. Purple and orange are mixed, are opposites on the colour chart.
No, blue's opposite of orange.
Is it not?
Yeah, purple's not. Also, purple's not a. No, purple and yellow are opposite.
Oh, well, never mind.
So,
well, you got it.
Yeah.
Where's
purple and yellow are opposite. Orange and blue are opposite. Red and green are opposite.
Orange. I should have known that. It should have been teal is the new white.
Oh, yeah.
It's the old white.
Sure.
Teal is the old white.
Oh, blue is the old white. I would have got it. Blue is the old white. I mean, there are not many other. Oh, what? I think could it be Game of Thrones?
Work of chairs you didn't get.
Very good.
Nice. Straighten your apathy, curb your enthusiasm.
Brilliant.
It's like enthusiasm.
How long did that take you?
7 minutes.
Great.
Not too long.
Great.
Why?
No, that's it. Is that the last?
And that is this episode of Pulp Kitchen. Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. Don't forget, we post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And if you enjoyed this Oscar conversation, well, stay tuned later this week when we're dropping another little clip where I will be giving James a little game. A game we've played every year on Pulp Kitchen now. Long-time listeners will know this. We've talked about the films that were nominated for Best Picture in 2025.
Yes.
But James, can you remember the films that were nominated for Best Picture in 2015?
It's always interesting to go back 10 years, see what was percolating.
And see what's carried forward into today's culture.
Fantastic.
Keep an eye out for that. Also, continue to like and subscribe and follow us on social media. On Instagram, we're posting lots, and TikTok, we're posting lots of film bites with interesting people. Go to interesting events, and that's it. Really, have a great week. Thank you for joining us, and I hope everyone is well. Thank you to our producers, Finn and
It's
Dave.
like everything's not well when you're like, and take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
And look after.
It's when we finish the show that I realised my batteries are running out.
Do you remember in Utah, I kept telling cab drivers and waiters and anyone I spoke to, I was like, oh, thank you, take care. And in America, take care literally means like, take care. Oh, I will.
Take it where?
You take good care of yourself too, sir.
Yeah.
We have to just be like, thank you. But in the UK, we're like, take care.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, take care.